Well, hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star and someone I am really excited to dig in and learn a bit more about. He is the founder and chief evangelist officer, by the way, love that title, for Interview Valet. And Interview Valet is actually an organization that's been helping get guests for this show, and so I certainly appreciate that. And he is also the author of Podcast Guest Profits, a book that you can actually learn more about, and we're going to talk about that here in just a minute. So Tom Schwab, thanks so much for joining me.
Kirby, it's an honor to be here.
Oh man, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. So I did a little bit of research on you, and one of the things that one term that I hear all the time is OPM. So it's other people's money. So if you're in the real estate or in that space, you use other people's money to buy a house and flip it and use it rather than your own money. But you've kind of said leveraging other people's platforms, OPP, is more valuable than other people's money. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Very much so. I mean, even now with interest rates going up, if Oprah comes to me and she says, "Hey, I want to give you $1 million," I'm not going to say no, right? But if she says, "I would love to introduce you to my audience," right? I'd love to give you a half hour on my show. And, she doesn't have the show anymore, but that sort of idea that you look at all the businesses that are launched from that. And you could mention various platforms. And so money is cheap. Money is plentiful out there, but attention, that's valuable. And if you can get introduced by somebody that already has that know, like, and trust, if they can introduce you at scale, that is powerful. And I would say that's more valuable today. Other people's audience, other people's platforms are more powerful and more valuable than other people's money.
That is fascinating because, again, I think you're right. The idea of the thing that's really hard to get when the world has become more noisy than ever before, attention is so hard to get and then maintain. So I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think that's really interesting.
And it's and I would point on that is, like, I think obscurity is everybody's biggest problem today, right?
Okay.
There's thousands, tens of thousands of people you could help if they only knew you existed. And so many people are saying, break through the noise. Well, you know what? The people that are telling us to break through the noise are the ones selling us the megaphones. Everybody's yelling louder and louder. Nobody's getting heard. I'd rather get introduced by somebody that they already know, like, and trust. I'd rather get in on the conversation.
You know what? That's interesting. That does lead me to my next question, because one of the things I've heard you say that about that every business's biggest problem is obscurity. I've also heard like Grant Cardone talks about that, and it resonated with me both times I heard it, because I think that as entrepreneurs, as marketers, we always feel like, oh, if we just had one more tool, if we had one more, we had a little bit more money, that would be the magic piece. And I think that when I heard it the first time, and then when I heard you say it again, it's like, yeah, but if everybody just knew, like, and trusted me, then the sales funnel becomes so much easier, because then it isn't a question of when they're going to buy or whether they're going to buy. It's what or when. Does that make sense?
Exactly. And, if you've got that know, like, and trust, you can have a lousy sales funnel and people will still be, I look at it as it's almost like fishing, right?
Yeah.
People will start jumping in the boat because they want to work with you so much. The flip side is you can have the perfect sales funnel, right? And there's that phrase in marketing now, you're one funnel away. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoy automation. I'm a big fan of that, but nothing good in my life has ever come through a funnel. It always comes through a conversation, right? And the more valuable, the more, the higher level that transaction, the more it takes a conversation. And I think that's why it starts with the conversation. Then you can go into the funnels and stuff like that. But, if you build it, they will come. The only thing that ever worked in was a great movie.
Yeah. Well, I totally agree with that. Well, and you mentioned that it hasn't come from a funnel. The best things in your life, they've come from a conversation. And you talk a little bit about a 10-minute awkward conversation and how you can find peace and clarity on the opposite side of that. Can you talk a little bit about what you mean by that and kind of clarify?
I say that for myself, right? My team knows that over and over. And every time I say it, I'm saying it for myself because I don't like conflict. Right. I don't like that awkward conversation. But, when when you know what the other person's going to say, what they know what you're going to say, it's a lot of BS, right? Let's have a real conversation, right? Where I'll ask you the questions, you ask me questions, we'll be honest. It's not, I'm not trying to change your opinion, but let's have a conversation. Let's figure out, where we are, what we believe in, where we differ, how we can learn from each other. And sometimes that can be awkward. But every time I've had one of those conversations, there's always peace and clarity that came at the end of that. And, I always remind our clients at Interview Valet, your goal going on a podcast is not to convert everybody, right? Because if you go on a podcast, I guarantee you, there's going to be people that turn you up and turn you off, right? And that's fine, right? If they turn you off, it just means that you're not a good fit for them. And God bless them. Doesn't mean you're wrong. Doesn't mean they're wrong. But there's enough people out there. Let's be honest. Let's have a real conversation. Say, this is what I do. This is what I believe. This is who I serve. And the right people will flock to you. Another thing that I cringe every time, thinking LinkedIn, about once an hour, I get somebody that reaches out to me. Do you want more leads? No, right? You can't take leads to the bank. I've never looked, and when my CPA gives me my numbers, there's nothing that says leads, right? No, yeah. I want more ideal customers, right? I don't want to just waste people's time on leads. So let's have a real conversation. And, love me or loathe me afterwards. And if we can work together, that's great. And I think, I think that more clarity in conversations helps everybody.
Well, and I think you kind of touched on this, is a real conversation isn't just a sales pitch, right? And where you're actually listening to each other, it does provide you perspective. And I think when we allow for that, not only is it better for business, but hell, it's better for life.
And, if I say what I know, I'm not learning anything. Right. It's not interesting, right? There's that whole idea of being curious. Tell me how you see the world. Tell me how you see this. Let's learn from each other on this. And to me, those are the clients that have been the best clients that I've learned from, that we've added the most value to, that have brought the most lifetime value. Let's have a conversation here. It's a partnership, not just another transaction. And I think especially as you get at higher levels there, if you're just trying to sell a widget, well, do a paid ad or something like that. But if you want a relationship, there's a great book called Clicksand, how digital marketing is ruining your business. And I love how Bill Troy says, whales don't click and big fish don't swim through funnels. It takes a conversation.
Wow. Okay. That's really good. So, okay. Final question for me. This is really interesting, but so I'm a content guy. So I do video. This is a podcast as well. I do write blogs. I enjoy living in this space, but you've said that podcast interviews convert 25 times better than blogs. That stopped me in my tracks. Talk to me about that data. That's super interesting to me.
Oh, and that data is quoted so many times and it's misquoted.
Okay.
And it was actually a study that was printed in HubSpot's blog. Okay. And early on, HubSpot was a client of ours. And what we said is that if somebody hears you on a podcast interview and they go to your website, right, they're going to convert somewhere between 25 and 50% from visitor to lead. Right. Okay. And we've seen some conversions that are up towards 90%.
Wow.
And at first I thought, Kirby, that, this has got to be wrong, right? This has got to be a personality. This has got to be a niche. And the more we studied it, the more, we've been doing it for 8 years, over 500 clients. And as we looked at that, and it's like, no, that is consistent. And you think about it, if somebody listens to you for, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, they've either turned you up or turned you off, right? That is not cold traffic, right? Whereas a blog, they come to your blog, they skim it, good blog, 1 to 2% of the people that convert on the blog, that read it will actually convert on a lead, right? Okay. So they'll give you their email address. But on a podcast interview, if they come to your website, there's a better than a 1 in 2 chance that they're going to give you their email address, because it's based on that relationship. It's hot traffic. And, I'm like you, it's, I love content, right?
Yeah.
Ideas change the world, and I'm not a natural writer. And so I look at it as there's a lot of problems in the world today, but there's no better time to be alive, because you can take our conversation here, you can chop it up and make social media posts out of it. You can repurpose and put videos out there. You can take it to someone and have them write a blog and make me sound like, English is my first language. So there's so many great ways that you can repurpose that. But my point is there on that conversion factor. I think the richer the content, the better the conversion rate.
Yeah,
And maybe the lower the conversion rate too, right?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, you don't want more leads. You want more great customers that you can serve and that are profitable for a lifetime value.
That's awesome. Well, we talked about this book at the very beginning, Podcast Guest Profits. You had mentioned before we got on here that people could come and get it, and they could kind of get to learn a little bit more about you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I always feel bad going on podcasts. I'm not here to sell books or anything.
Yeah, no.
I'm here to help people. So if you want a free copy of the book, just come back to Interview Valet with a V.com/marketing joy. There's a free assessment there, 10 questions. Will podcast interview marketing work for you? Free copy of the book. If you're in the States, I'll send you a copy. If you want an email copy, I can send that to you also. If you're overseas, you get the electronic version. And then I'll put my calendar schedule link in there too. If you'd like to talk and see how you could use targeted podcast interviews to grow your brand and grow your business, just come back to interviewvalet.com/marketing joy.
Well, Tom, thank you so much. That's very, very generous of you. I know that's going to be very helpful for a ton of people. So thanks for taking the time. Thanks for doing this. And I appreciate the offer.
Kirby, I appreciate all you do.
All right. Thanks a lot. Again, Tom Schwab, check out the book, please do. And this has been really fun. We'll have to do it again sometime. Okay, Tom?
I look forward to it.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.